Coming up, a new Forever stamp features a Navajo skateboard. We meet the artist. Plus, the founder of makeup line Prados Beauty joins us to talk about her journey to success. And we are breaking down the Willow Project decision by the Biden administration. I'm Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amarawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. We start today in South Dakota, where 3 separate Indian child welfare bills have died in the state legislature. That action has left tribal leaders very angry. Officials from the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe are calling the lack of action by state lawmakers gross negligence. Pine Ridge called it deplorable. 2 of the bills would have preserved cultural preferences for Native children in foster care, but that failed last month in the state legislature. Then last week, a 3rd bill died. Around half of the children in state foster care are Native, yet Natives only make up about 10% of the population. Joe Brings Plenty is a council member for Cheyenne River. He spoke to ICT.
Lakota people a long time ago were really good parents. I mean, the Wakayaja, in our belief, is the center of our circle. That's the very center. That's the Wakayajas of the little, spirits. And so if those were to be lost and to us, our center, then what are we as a people,
Next door in Minnesota, things are different. That's because the state's governor is expected to soon sign legislation on ICWA into law. The Minnesota Indian Family Preservation Act was adopted in 1985 as a supplement to the federal law on child welfare. Then 2 Native American lawmakers in the state introduced a bill this session to update the law's language, all in an effort to strengthen it. The Senate version was drafted by Standing Rock Sioux citizen Mary Kunish, while the House version was created by Yankton Sioux citizen Heather Keeler. The bill passed the House last week with a vote of 128-0. Up next, Governor Tim Walz is expected to sign it into law. The new legislation will certify the state's policy on tribal relationships and include recognition of tribes as sovereign nations with jurisdiction over child custody disputes. Now to Canada, where the Métis Nation British Columbia is fighting for its sovereignty. The dispute was started after MNBC wanted to join a lawsuit over the country's Indigenous child welfare law. The Canadian government rejected that request, saying MNBC couldn't join because it was not an Indigenous governing body. MNBC responded, calling that ruling unreasonable and wrong. It cited that it has an elected government and represents around 90,000 Métis in the province. Officials from the Canadian government pushed back, saying that MNBC does not meet the standards to be a governing body under a constitutional act. MNBC is now asking for a judicial review of their case, where it now awaits further review. Those documents under review are currently hidden from the public. Staying in Canada, police there have uncovered what is being called the biggest art fraud in world history. Last week, Thunder Bay Police announced the arrest of 8 suspects in connection with a year-long investigation into the forgery of paintings. Officials announced that more than 1,000 counterfeit works by the Ojibwe artist Norval Morrisseau were also seized. Morrisseau, who is from the Sandpoint First Nation, is known as the founder of the Woodlands School of Art. The renowned artist's work has been exhibited in galleries across the world. Canadian Senator and art historian Patricia Bovey says the industry of fraudulent art costs Indigenous artists millions of dollars. Investigators say people who suspect they may have fraudulent Morrisseau paintings should contact legal counsel first. Well, for all of you plant lovers in Arizona who want help identifying Indigenous species, there's an app for that. The app iNaturalist collects information on traditionally used plants that have cultural, medicinal, or economic values important to tribal communities. The U.S. Forest Service and Arizona-based tribes partnered to create the app as part of the Tribal Nation Botanical Research Collaborative. Volunteers record observations and data of traditionally used plants for officials to use later to develop conservation and management protocols. These plants include notable species like the saguaro, sunflower, yucca, and others. According to researchers, collecting information on plants that are often overlooked will fill a critical knowledge gap and ensure the existence of culturally used plants for future generations. You can find the iNaturalist app on the App Store. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Cece Meadows, the founder and CEO of the makeup line Prados Beauty, has found a lot of success along a difficult road. As a cancer and domestic abuse survivor, Cece has persevered to make her dreams come true. Her makeup line, which was launched in 2019, can now be found in over 600 JCPenny stores across the country. Cece joins us now virtually. Hi there, happy Women's History Month to you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So the last time we visited with you, the news about JCPenny had just launched. What updates do you have on the venture?
Yeah, so we are going into wave 7 and 8. I'm actually traveling home to Yuma this weekend. I'm originally from, Yuma, Arizona, and so I'm going to be traveling there tomorrow and opening up the Yuma, Arizona store, and I'm so excited to go home and to just celebrate with my family and my friends of, that opening. And so I'm very excited about it.
And so I understand this would be your second storefront, is that right?
Right. So I actually have a storefront here in Las Cruces, and then we're in the planning phase of opening a second store. So opening a second Prados brick and mortar store is something that's very important to me, being in Arizona and having more, just connection with my family and my people there is something that's really important to me. But this will actually be the 500th store that we're opening, and then the last of the 600 stores will open on April 7th, and we'll be opening that store here in Las Cruces. So I'm really excited about it.
You just came out with a new line. Tell us about how you're constantly evolving to make new products that are going to appeal to your customers.
Yeah, so we just came out with the Sagrado collection, and the Sagrado collection is paying more homage to, I'm Chicana and Indigenous, and so I'm constantly trying to figure out a way of how we can blend both of the cultures and both of the things that are important to me and tell the stories in an authentic way. And so the Sagrado collection is, it's a dedication to the Arizona, New Mexico sunrises and sunsets, and then the hummingbird. And so to have that collection come out is just, it's important to me that we always create things that, evolve the line and, makes it accessible to everybody and that anybody and everybody can use. So I feel like this eyeshadow palette is something that a lot of, the people have been calling for. It's a more neutral toned palette. And so we're a very colorful, bright brand, and to have something that anybody and everybody can use makes me really happy.
As I just mentioned, March is Women's History Month. How do you use your brand to uplift women who are diverse, but also to uplift our non-binary and trans relatives?
Yeah, so being a woman and being in a community that is very matriarchal. I grew up in a matriarchal home, and women are so important. And you know, to have a whole month dedicated to us is nice, but I always tell, I raise my boys that, women are important every day of the year. And so it starts at home. To be able to uplift women in a space where they're so hardworking and they're so resilient and they're just out here trying to make it. It doesn't cost anything to share our platform with them. And I live by the mantra of community over competition. And so for me to help uplift women and to share their stories or to share their businesses, it's an honor for me. Um, I take a lot of pride, and I'm proud of them for the things that they're accomplishing and the things that they're doing. It's always that feeling that if someone else made it, then you made it too. And especially for Indigenous and, our women who are part of the LGBTQ two-spirit community, um, helping them feel seen and accepted and wanted and loved is something that, is really to me.
And I'd actually love to hear you talk about that more, given that, makeup is something that we're seeing now being used by people of all genders. How does that sort of fall in line with your mission?
So, it's a inclusive beauty brand, and I often talk about how this brand it's love, it's heart work. I always talk about heart work. And the world can be a pretty dark and pretty scary place, and it can be cruel sometimes. And so if you create something that's supposed to bring people together, then how are you going to create something that leaves others out when really all they want to do is be seen? And so I teach my children and I teach my mentees and anyone who, wants to learn about Prados and our mission is that it's our job to help others be seen in the world because, we spent lots of time not being seen. And so acceptance and putting in the work and, just rallying behind them in their moments where they feel like they're not seen and they're not accepted is something that's really important to me. I grew up in a home with, I call them a gunkle, they're gay uncles, and they're fabulous, and I love them to death. And, to be able to be raised in that type of home environment where they were just loving and accepting of me, no matter how I came. Um, I want to be that for them and for others as well. And so I think it's really important to break that stigma behind false fears that people have about the LGBTQ2 spirit community and really just love them.
Well, Cece Meadows, founder and CEO of Prados Beauty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The United States Postal Service has unveiled its latest collection of forever stamps. It is called The Art of the Skateboard and will officially go on sale next week on March 24th. 2 of the 4 stamps for this collection were created by Indigenous artists. Today we are joined by Dior Greenwood, who used her Navajo culture to bring her stamp to life. Hi Dior, welcome to the ICT Newscast.
Yeah, hey, hello. I just told you guys hello in the traditional Dene language.
We have a photo of your stamp, but tell us about the design and how you came up with it.
Yeah, so when creating this design, I wanted to fall back on the consistencies in my life. And a lot of those consistencies were when I woke up to pray to the morning star, or when I had a very rough day and the day was closing out, I always seen the evening star. So that central design in the center definitely is something that has always been consistent in my life, and that is the morning star and the evening star, as well as every sunset and every sunrise. So I wanted to do something that, everyone as a human can relate to, that we see every day, and put it into, something like a stamp design, but also the 2 eagle feathers on the skateboard are extremely important to me as a Dene woman. I use the eagle feathers today to pray and to send my prayers, everything across the board, but also in the same aspect, the eagle logo carrier for the US Postal Service is also very important. So I wanted to do something that like combined, that love of the community, but also like the respects of like the importance of a stamp. And yeah, so I came across this design um, purely by drawing something out and allowing it to take form as I continued to design it. And it completely changed from my first idea of what I wanted it to be. And it's its own life form. And I'm happy that, it's real and it's here and it's on a stamp. And the kids in my community and the elderly in my community actually get to be a part of it and, claim it as our own.
You're actually a skateboarder yourself. How did that give you a unique perspective to make this stamp?
Yeah, so I'm a skateboarder, but also a skateboard maker. So the board featured on the stamp is a board that I had handmade, hand pressed, hand cut, shaped, and then designed. So I definitely wanted it to, pay respects to skateboarders all around and even skateboard makers because, a lot of people only see the finished product of a skateboard. So when asked to do this stamp, I reached out to the people close to me and they allowed me to come by. Propel Skateboards for Kids allowed me to come in, use their skateboard press, make the skateboard from scratch. And, I just felt like it had to be an all around story and all around narrative. So, yeah, it was important that I made the skateboard. It was important that I did a design that, represented my community, but also a design that skateboarders will, respect and be appreciative of.
Dior, I'm curious, the skateboards behind you, did you make those?
So those skateboards are, yes, so the 3 decorated ones behind me are handmade, and then the 2 ones off to the side, those are just redesigns.
And will you plan to make a skateboard, like a real life skateboard, I should say, based off of the design that you created for the United States Postal Service?
That is an actual real skateboard. The skateboard will be living in the Smithsonian Postal Museum for many years to come after the stamp releases. So the skateboard is an actual real skateboard that people will be able to get a chance to go and see.
You started talking about this a little bit earlier, but I'd love to dive deeper into the significance of Americans buying your stamp and the representation that it brings.
Yeah, when reached out, my great grandmother was still alive at the moment when I first got the first contact about this entire project, and I was so thrilled. On my very next trip back to my homelands, I shared with her, the opportunity I will have, and she was so proud of me because, my great grandmother entrusted every important message and everything she's ever needed to get to somebody with a stamp. So to her, a stamp is, equivalent to like a brand new phone to a teenager. That's what they trust, but this is what my great grandmother trusted. And, it's such a small thing on a stamp, but it was so vitally important to her and to many other people in my community who don't have the cell data and communications. And we still use stamps today to send, important documents, pay our bills, and everything across the board. So yeah, this is a project I instantly knew was a lot more meaningful and a lot bigger than myself.
Dior, very quickly here, what other kinds of projects are you working on aside from this stamp?
I continually just try to evolve and help the youth in my community. We're opening skate parks across the Navajo Nation. We're trying to offer safety training and, hopefully down the line of all the aspects of, skateboarding going into the Olympics and such, that the Native community will come together and build Native Olympic facilities, not just for skateboarding, but for everything across the board, from 3-on-3 basketball to archery to equestrian, all the way across. So, I definitely want to dive into helping the youth evolve those skill sets. And right now, all we need is just the facilities. And so I really hope this stamp opens that dialogue up of all of it. Excuse
Well,
me.
Dior Greenwood, one of the artists included in the upcoming Forever stamp, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we should note that ICT's Mackenzie Allen Charmley will soon have an interview with an Alaska Native artist whose art was also included in this collection. We'll be right back. The Biden administration gave the green light for the Willow Project earlier this week, which is a drilling project on the north slope of Alaska by the company ConocoPhillips. The decision was widely criticized by climate advocates, and it was celebrated by several lawmakers. The Willow Project decision came from the Bureau of Land Management, which is an agency overseen by Secretary Deb Haaland. Here's part of a video Haaland posted to social media.
Third is the Willow Project, which is a difficult and complex issue that was inherited. These are existing leases issued by previous administrations as far back as the 90s. As a result, we had limited decision space, but we focused on how to reduce the project's footprint and minimize its impacts to people and to wildlife. What was approved reflects a substantially smaller project than ConocoPhillips originally proposed, a 40% reduction. They're also relinquishing nearly 70,000 acres of their leases, land that will no longer be developed. President Biden has done more than any other in history to invest in our nation's lands, waters, and clean energy. The clean energy transition will not happen overnight, but it will happen with all of us working together. I am confident that we are on the right path, even if it's not always a straight line.
ICT regular contributor John Tahsuda is back with more on this decision. He's a principal at Navigators Global. Hi again, John.
Good to be back. This is a great issue to talk about.
Let's just jump right in here with that reaction that we're getting from Secretary Deb Haaland on the Willow Project. What is your first response watching that video?
Well, I'm glad to see that they're moving forward with it. I think you note from her comments that in some ways their hands were tied. The authorization for the petroleum reserve actually goes back, almost 100 years now, and was set aside for national security for the country, originally for the Navy, and then just for national security purposes. So, and then carried forward, through time with authorizations. There, as you know, or she noted, there are leases that are in place. So there are some legal rights that some of the companies have in that are longstanding. But I think also really important to this, and why I think it's really important that this is put in place and it moves forward, is for the North Slope community. The North Slope Native community, is a small community, but the land size is huge. The area of North Slope, if you want to put it in perspective, is about the size of the state of Minnesota. And there's approximately 8,000 people that live there. The vast majority of them are Native folks. They have been supportive of the industry and of this project for years. And so for their sakes, I'm very happy that this is moving forward and not impeded anymore by outside interests.
You've worked in the Interior Department yourself. I imagine there's had to have been tons of reviews for this project to be approved. Give us some context for what Secretary Haaland likely had to go through in order to get to this point.
You're right. So this thing has been exhaustively reviewed, both from all kinds of perspectives. Again, there are some national security implications. There are industry implications as far as energy supply, oil supply to the country, but also the environmental reviews. And this comes following on another round of environmental reviews imposed by a federal court. And so there was a supplemental environmental impact statement that was done, and then the decision was based off of that. And again, I think the as Secretary Holland noted, the avenues for decision were substantially narrowed at this point in time. And so I think, though, that, I can't see how people cannot be impressed with the amount of review that went into it. As she noted, the footprint is lowered. I'm not sure that's necessarily the best outcome for the Native folks there or for the country, but certainly will make those on the environmental and climate change side a little happier. The footprint for the actual project is minuscule for the size of the land that's there, but the impact on the community and the country is undeniable.
John, we only have about 45 seconds here, but I do want to talk about the flip side of the coin, which of course you just mentioned, the climate activists who are saying that this is pulling back against what Biden promised and campaigned on. What is your response to those people?
Well, so I think that they need to listen to the Native people that live there. They're the ones who have been there the longest. They have the closest tie and the most responsibility for that land. And I think that, again, I'm glad to see this go forward. If there's been a criticism of the Biden administration that I've had, it's that they have often chosen a small segment, the climate change and environmental activists, over tribal interests. And in this case, thankfully, the tribal interest won out.
Well, ICT regular contributor John Tahsuda, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.